Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Water and Power Drought, PSPS, and Conservation webinar. We are joined today by Greg Jones from NID, Brandon Sanders from PG&E, Nick McBurney from the Nevada County Building Inspection, and Environmental Health Director Amy Irani from Nevada County. I know that, Greg, you have actually a workshop that will be starting at 6 o'clock. So why don't you kick us, kick us off and tell us what NID, because you are not quite in dire drought emergency, at least not declared, but where are you at?
Yeah, thanks, Pascal. Thanks for having this meeting. It's an important topic, and glad we can be participant of this. I did have a small PowerPoint. Did you happen to have that? You want to put that up or no?
Sure. I can do it if I believe I do have it handy. So give me just a sec. Yes, I have a problem. I have too many screens. If I pull up that PowerPoint, my screen is it's not going to work here.
Okay, that's fine.
Can you pull it up, because you have screen sharing abilities?
Oh, well, let's see if I can find it real fast. Let me see if I can just, I'll just talk through it, Pascal, if that's okay with you and your
Sure,
audience.
absolutely.
This actual presentation, a very similar of it, one of it was made yesterday by Chip Close, our water operations manager at NID's board meeting. So that'll be up on our website. So there's a lot of information that I'll talk about right now that was expressed yesterday, and the PowerPoint should be up on our website in the next couple of days. So as we know, in California, we're sitting at a drought index of extreme drought conditions throughout the whole state of California. Clearly in Nevada County, Placer County, which is the two service territories of NID, everything is extremely red, and we don't anticipate a substantive amount of rainfall as we're entering into the summer months. Today being a wonderful, great surprise, and an expression of how the California Sierra Nevadas can change on us at any time. But that being said, as of June 16th, we measure our lake level precipitations throughout the winter and into the summer months. As of at Bowman Lake, we have a precipitation gauge. We have been at 49. Oh, hey, you found it.
Look at there.
There you go. Okay, great. This is the drought monitor updated on the 15th of last year. I mean, of the other day, last week. Go one slide back, please. Great. So at Bowman Lake, the precipitation you can see there is 34 inches, just over 34 inches of precipitation. And now this is during the hydrologic year, which is, and it's 49% of our annual average. The blue graph in the back is our average at 69.56 average to this date. And this is measured from last, looks like beginning of October. The interesting thing on this graph is that you can see the purple line is the drought of 1977. That was at 30 inches. We're slightly above that in the red at 34 inches, yet we are below last year's precipitation level, which was 48.5 as of the 16th of June. So we don't anticipate that to change very much between now and October, when we anticipate the rains to come again. So next slide, please. This is a graph of our storage. The blue in the background again is our 8-year average of our total storage capacity. That's all of our upper lakes, including Rawlins and Scotts Platte. We are at 192,300 or 192,032 acre feet of total storage to date. as of the 16th. That's drawing down daily. We are 79% of our 8-year average and 71% of capacity. So that sounds really great. However, what we typically would be receiving at this time of year is still some more snow runoff. We haven't seen the snow runoff at all. So we have been dipping into our storage capacity in the last 30 days or so, and that's just going to continue to go down. Next slide. Treated water, we do track our treated water usage into a 2015-16 drought. There was a conservation mandate from the state, and so we started comparing to our 2013 numbers. You can see this is an ongoing annual of what we conserved over and above 2013. By 2015, conservation became sort of a way of life in the area, and our customers really responded to that, saving 27% over 2013. However, what we have experienced this year in 2021, as of May, we have only conserved 2% of above or below our 2013 standards. We attribute a lot of that to a really hot and a really dry and a really windy April and May. And so a lot of people had to use the water-to-water lawns. So we are coming back into the blue shaded area now. And as we move forward with some more drought regulatory standards here coming up really soon, hopefully that red line is going to dip back into the blue, and we'll be measuring greater conservation as compared to 2013. Next slide. So this is just a quick summary of our actions currently to date at NID. On the 28th of April, the board declared a drought emergency, and we implemented our stage 1 drought plan, which was a voluntary reduction of 10%. In April, the numbers looked still pretty good. There was still some snowpack on the snow, and all of California was thinking that we might still be okay, knowing that the water contents were down. But what happened is that the snow really did not attribute to runoff and make it into the tributaries, which would then come down, and we'd be able to divert and capture as storage. With that, the board on May, as we realized a little later that the hydrology was changing, hydrologic was changing. On May 26th, the board authorized an additional $700,000 purchase of an additional 15,000 acre feet from PG&E. And we are implementing that and purchasing that water as we speak. And then there was a request for looking into further drought actions. On the 9th of June, staff provided a hybrid concept of increased drought actions, basically taking stage 1 through 4 and identifying different elements of drought that we can implement. And so we have met with a number of folks within the community, in particular the ag community, to discuss how we can reduce usage and bring the concept of conservation. We've got to a consensus where the ag and irrigation season will continue through October 15th. There was a conversation about stopping the irrigation customer deliveries by October 1, but in meeting with a number of the folks in the ag community, we're going to keep the season open until October 15th, which is our normal irrigation season. Carryover storage is what we're looking at. And right now we have an 8-year average of 166,000 acre feet in our system. Our minimum carryover for health and safety is 77,000 acre feet. We need that for 2022 in order to meet our health and safety demands. Our initial projection back in April and May was we were thinking we would have about 91,000 acre feet. And that purchase of PG&E water boosted our end of year reservoir capacity up to about 106,000 acre feet. And next slide. So this is a picture of what that forecast looks like. You can see the red line is our current storage capacity, and the purple or the yellow line that tapers off what was then our projected carryover storage before we purchased PG&E water. The 106,700 is now our new current projection without implementing any drought contingency strategies. Next slide. So now our new baseline for the district looking into the end of October is roughly 106,000 acre feet. At the end of the year, remember 78,000 or 77,000 is our acre feet that we need in order to support our health and safety services of the district into the 2022 season, should this next winter be a really dry winter as well. These other lines, the orange line just directly above the purple 106 is projection towards the end of October with a 20% savings of usage from all our customers. And then the yellow line is where we could be at year-end storage if all of our customers pushed out to a 30% savings. These are just kind of mathematical projections. Clearly, there's a number of variables in here. We do believe with our current projection on where we believe the board is going to land on our next drought stage, we're going to end up somewhere between the 106,000 and the 124,000, even though we're going to be moving into it. We anticipate moving into a 20% reduction. This is ultimate reduction, but sometimes we're probably not going to get there. This is what staff recommended yesterday at the board. So this is the recommendation, and there's a slight variation that the board discussed and gave direction to staff on. But treated water, we're looking to reduce a mandatory reduction of 20%. We believe we're going to implement the drought pricing, which is a 25% increase in volumetric price. And I'll explain what that is on the next slide in a minute. We're going to, nope, not quite, one more, yeah. We're going to limit outdoor watering to every other day with a maximum of 3 days per week. That's our treated water customers. There's roughly 19,000 of them. The irrigated water system is roughly 5,000 or 6,000 customers. We are not adding any new or increased water sales. We will not add fall, winter, or fall water sales to any new customers. We will limit winter sales to existing winter sale customers only, or winter water customers only. And then there will be also a 20% increase in volumetric pricing. As far as the district goes, what we are doing to implement this, we won't be doing any system flushing unless it's absolute emergency. We're going to implement wastewater patrols. Our outreach and messaging campaigns are going to increase, and our wastewater enforcement will increase. Next slide. The change in the drought price, it kind of looks like this. So the fixed fee is unchanged, but the volumetric rate increases. Now, we can't physically cut off water. We can't just shut it down because of health and safety. However, what we can do is on the metered side of our house, which is the treated water, your volumetric rate will change. And overall, it on average, it's going to be different with everybody, but our calculations show that on average, it's roughly a monthly rate increase of 11%, $11 on that volumetric rate. The irrigation side of the house, again, it is not feasible to cut down and shut off canals on a rotating or a scheduled basis. If you don't know, we have over 500 miles of open ditch canal throughout our 287,000 acre service territory. The fixed fee will be unchanged, yet the price for water, for the volumetric inches of water, miner's inches, how we measure it, will go up roughly $62.90 per miner's inch. And that's a price that happens throughout the whole season. So you buy your water in April and you're delivered in October, it's an additional $62.90 during that period of time, from $336 to $399. Next slide. I should back up okay, no, I'll keep going. So we're going to increase our social media and conservation messaging through social media, website, blogs, tips, and messaging. Here's just some NID websites that URLs that kind of talk about different ways to conserve. We're targeting our customer contacts. So we're reaching out directly to high consumption users who are on the treated water system, that are on a metered system, that we have real-time data and we can see who's using what. And so we can call them and reach out to them directly. We can come to anyone's home to discuss what leaks or high flows they might have, and then continuous flow notifications. Again, it's similar to the high consumption, but if there is a continuous flow on an account, we get an alert here at the office, and then we can notify that person. Typically, that means that there's a leak somewhere. Additional efforts include partnerships with HOAs and different organizations for messaging, for community groups, for the farm bureaus, etc. We're implementing a brown is the new green. If you haven't driven by our office here on West Main Street in Grass Valley lately, there's a lawn out in front. We're going to turn that brown. We're not watering that any longer. Drought banners, you'll be able to see those probably throughout the community here shortly, where we're going to be implementing those on a number of businesses, promoting that please conserve wherever you can, billboards, toilet replacement program, etc. Next slide. Here's just some highlights on ways to conserve. All this information's in our website, and they're just helpful hints on certain things and ways we can message. Next slide again. Treated water, again, another sort of messaging on landscaping use, using mulch, drought resistant trees and plants. If you don't know, Master Gardeners is a partner of ours here at the district at our headquarters. There's a great, wonderful drought resistant farm and orchard that the Master Gardeners have been building here since the mid-90s. I highly encourage you to come and visit that and walk around. It's open to the public and anybody can see it. There's some great examples of drought resistant trees and plants within this system. That is the end of my slide presentation. I do want to mention that the board, the district board, will be looking for and discussing and deliberating these drought recommendations that I just presented to you. That's what we presented to the board yesterday. We have to have a few days to create the resolution, but that's going to happen on July 1 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon is a special board meeting that will be discussing this new drought regulation.
Thank you, Greg. That is so we have one question here that's for you that just came in. How many acre feet are used weekly or daily? Do you have daily consumption? And I assume that is for irrigation water, which is probably really difficult to ascertain.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that information. Acre feet daily for a treated water customer, irrigation customer. I mean, that's a hard question to answer, to be honest with you.
And the one question, well, we get several iterations of it for you, is what is NID doing about people who basically steal water out of ditches or reservoirs?
So we do have a hotline. You can call our dispatch and our office through customer service. If you do see somebody that doesn't look correct and shouldn't be there, either putting a pump into a canal in the middle of the night and sucking water out, We have a 24-hour dispatch center. The sheriff clearly is on call. You can call the sheriff. There are many people who have accounts that take water from our hydrants, and they're delivering water to customers that have bad wells, etc. And so there are legitimate customers who come with a water tank and etc. So don't think that everybody who's got a water tank teeing up to a fire hydrant is taken, but clearly there is some theft throughout the system. Again, we have the second largest service territory in the state of California. We can't be everywhere all the time. So if you see something, if it looks funny, if it looks shady, please give us a call. And we'll do whatever we can to try to go out and see who's there.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Greg, for your time. And I know you have to run and actually do another workshop on. I believe that one is what is it? NID is your treated water.
That's our urban water management plan. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's happening at 6 o'clock and going until it's done. So please, everyone, if you're interested in what's going on at NID, tune in, nidwater.com, and be a participant. We would look forward to engaging.
All right. Thanks again, Greg.
Thank you.
And with that, we're gonna from water, we're gonna go to power, and we have Brandon Sanders here. And Brandon, so rumor has it we can expect PSPSs again this year, and so of course everybody wants to know why, how many, when, where. So what can you tell us?
Sure. Thank you, Pascal, for the opportunity to engage this evening. Am I coming through clearly? Okay, great. So hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Sanders. I'm a local public affairs representative with PG&E. I'm currently assigned to Placer, Nevada, and Sierra counties, tasked with interfacing with city and county government, also supporting our interface with emergency management through our public safety branch within the company. We definitely have a challenging year ahead of us, as everyone is keenly aware. Drought conditions are exacerbating our fire threat, and PG&E is taking proactive measures to mitigate the risk associated with our system in relation to wildfire ignitions. We do have programs in place that are ongoing. I'm sure all of you have seen a lot of activity as it relates to vegetation management in your communities. We have tree workers constantly flowing through the community, identifying hazards, mitigating those hazards. And we hope that while we understand the work on the tree work especially is very impactful, we hope that you see the difference it makes in terms of the safety of our system in your area. And we also ask that you treat those tree workers with kindness and respect, as they're really just working hard to render the system in a safer condition across the area. We have a number of efforts also afoot. We have generation currently in place at the Brunswick substation. We will remain in that posture in the event of a PSPS event. And really the intent there is to allow us to keep energized those underground portions of the system that are at less risk from severe damaging wind and the related fire threat that comes from those winds. I will say that we have a lot in place in terms of customer supports for our community. We have a strong partnership with Freed, they're locally in Nevada County, and other partnerships in adjacent counties to support those customers with access and functional needs. We have a very strong focus on providing the maximum level of support that we can, whether that be providing backup batteries, housing assistance, food assistance, those types of things. We're partnering with community organizations as far as food banks and others, really just doing whatever we can to lessen the impact. And we do acknowledge that there is an impact to the customers that we serve there locally. I will say that we have a lot of positive developments across the broader area. I know that UBNet covers a pretty large swath of the Sierra Nevada. And for that, we're grateful. You know, UBNet is a great resource, as we all know. I will share that if you kind of moving south to north from the 50 corridor up into the 80 corridor, we do have now, we're moving to operational readiness on microgrids serving the underground portions of our electric system in the communities of Pollock Pines, Georgetown, Forest Hill, and Colfax. We're very proud of that work. It's something that we heard strongly from our communities and local elected leaders in those jurisdictions. They needed solutions and they needed essential services in place in the event of PSPS, especially considering the impact that PSPS would have when interfaced with the wildfire event. So those microgrids are approaching operational readiness, and we're very excited about that. We feel that we've delivered on our commitments there. But generally speaking, we're being aggressive on wildfire safety, whether that comes to system hardening, providing supports for our customers, providing those localized generation assets. But really, I would welcome any questions or feedback from the community, Pascal. If you have those, I'm here and available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Well, we have Maggie just put a question in the Q&A, and she says, I've been so grateful for the tree work that PG&E contract crews have done in my neighborhood and on our property over the past year. The crews were in and out over a month with very heavy equipment, and the impact on our roadways has been really unfortunate. Is there any assistance that road associations or neighborhoods can get regarding road repair after all the tree work is completed?
Thank you for the question, Pascal. I do appreciate it. You know, it's a complex question. We do have, you know, access rights and, you know, easements and things, and the ability to access the system for those types of treatments. If they do perceive that there is damage to the roadway, there's a number of avenues those individuals can go through. I guess I would offer that if they observe operational activity in the field, they can approach the crews directly and have a conversation. That's typically the best way to solve those types of situations, is to have a frank conversation, but a kind conversation with those operating in their neighborhood, and try to seek a solution there locally with folks on the ground. If they don't feel they're getting the resolution they need, there are avenues that they can call the PG&E hotline, or even better, they can email wildfiresafety@pge.com. That is a heavily monitored inbox within the company, because our focus now is on wildfire safety, in addition to, you know, providing reliable and effective service to our customers. So either I would recommend, in terms of initial course of action, contacting those personnel in the field, or sending an email to wildfiresafety@pge.com. And if that doesn't provide you with the feedback you're seeking, you can also call PGE 5000, 1-800-PGE 5000, or ultimately, it'll get back to me if you were to reach out to your county government or city government, and I would be happy to facilitate a conversation further if needed. Thank you.
And one more question for you is, do you know if Nevada Union High School will now remain powered during a PSPS? Do you know if that is on the circuit that is on the Brunswick circuit?
I would have to follow up, Pascal, on that one with you. I don't have that information readily available. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly okay.
What I can say is, if it's served in the overhead, it would continue to be affected by PSPS. You know, the focus of the Brunswick generation is the underground portions of the system that allow us to operate safely without any risk of wind impacts.
And when we're talking about wind impacts, of course, you have your own weather center, the PG&E weather center, which is there. And I got some questions about notifications that if you decide to go to a PSPS, if there is any way to provide more more regular updates, that when you're going to the PSPS, making sure that the maps are up there and available, and also notifying people when they can get restoration.
So we have a number of tools available. We share a lot of that information in real time with your county office of emergency services. And I personally share that information with your local elected officials as best I can through your city managers, county administrator, and sometimes direct contact with electeds. Additionally, we have a new tool available, which I believe there was a press release today, where individuals can sign up for address alerts for premises that are not their own, right? So if you have a elderly relative or a friend, or even if you're visiting from out of the area and you want to know if your community or that premise will be impacted, there is now a new address alert tool on our PG&E website where you can essentially put in any address and subscribe to alerts for that address. So really good example is for someone who has a vacation home in Nevada County, lives out of the area, they can be notified when that particular premise is subject to a PSPS. And additionally, there's a great resource on our website, pge.com/weather, and we provide a 7-day forecast of projected PSPS impacts there as well. So I would encourage our customers, not just in Nevada County, which I know is your sort of centralized location, but across the broader Sierra Nevada foothills, to definitely subscribe to or otherwise monitor pge.com/weather, because that's where you're going to get the best real-time info as to the projected impacts of PSPS a week ahead.
Great. Thank you. So now let's talk a little bit about what else we can expect with the drought, and that is, of course, if we have winds. It appears the wind never stopped since, well, say October. There's either a breeze or it's downright windy all the time, which then at some point we will have public safety power shutoffs. And a lot of us have gone and, well, we have generators, and other people have portable generators. Now they are of course really handy, especially if you own a well, because when you lose power, you also lose the water. So and we all need water, especially during the fire season. But there are some safety measures that we need to do, and therefore, Nick, can you talk a little bit about generator safety? Because if I remember correctly, last year we had at least 3 incidents, and one was where actually a home was destroyed due to a generator.
Right, thanks, and thank you for having me. So obviously, let's focus maybe on portable generators. They're basically automatic generators, which are fixed in place. They don't require any refueling. They turn on automatically, and so the risk from an automatic generator is very small. For a portable generator, you want to start by having an area that's cleared of any vegetation. So your driveway, a gravel area. Obviously, you don't want anything near it that's combustible. Be sure that you understand how to operate the generator before you turn it on. You want to take a look at the loads and turn things on one at a time to make sure that the generator doesn't trip. So it'll take some experimentation to see how many appliances and what you can run. The main and most important thing is that you have a properly installed transfer switch, which will eliminate the possibility of electricity being backfed into the grid. A generator permit through the county is about a $400 permit. It can be turned around in a day. So just so you know, we're here. The county lobby in the CDA department is now open, so you can walk right in and get a permit for a generator transfer switch. When refueling, and this is a critical point, that you allow the generator to cool off so that the gasoline, when you're putting it into the generator, doesn't ignite, the fumes from the generator and the hot exhaust. The generator should be well ventilated, not in an enclosed area like a garage. It should be outside, but out of the weather. If there's a storm, generator's not generally rated for being out in the weather. And let's see, those are kind of the main points I would say in terms of operating a portable generator. Yeah, if anyone has any more specific questions, I did put in the chat just a link to the residential generator submittal checklist. So that's a document that you can take a look at if you're interested in. I had a question for you, Brandon, actually, which is about the impact of backfeeding power into the grid and what the risks are associated with that with linesmen, because I've always been told that there are, if you're backfeeding electricity, it could put someone at risk. Is that true, and how does that really work?
Really appreciate that question. Thank you. It's a very important one. So we definitely encourage everyone who's using a portable generator to have it installed by a qualified electrical worker, as was just described. There is a significant risk if your generator is installed improperly that it could backfeed generation back into a de-energized circuit where a line worker is actively working on a repair. If that line is energized from a generation source unknown to the line worker, there's a severe risk of injury or death. So folks really need to understand the risk associated with those portable generators and make sure that it's installed by a qualified electrical worker. One additional piece I'd like to share is that PG&E does actually have an active rebate program for those individuals who are impacted by PSPS, but also are served by a private well on their property. And so you can find that information by visiting pge.com/backup power. And there is a rebate program in place where you can receive some financial assistance for the purchase of a generator for those who are served by private wells. Thank you for the question. I hope that came through clearly.
Yep, that's very useful, especially in this area. As you know, Brandon, there are a lot of people on wells, and I have to say, after our standby generator was installed with the automatic transfer switch, it was very different to report on PSPSs, etc., because we're actually able to report from here, and I was able to take a shower at the same time. It was great. So it's, but again, safety first, both for you, the fire safety. I mean, yes, absolutely, have it the area where you, if you have a portable generator, make sure that it's really, that the area is clear, that there is no grass, because also exhaust is hot. The exhaust from a generator is hot. So it's not just the immediate area, but also where the exhaust is, it is hot. And when we have PSPS, it's already windy. So really that's, please, please, please be fire safe. Of course, going to cool off during a PSPS, which is during a hot weekend, like what's coming up, that means going, well, a lot of people go to the river. And well, first of all, the river is really low. And the one question that people want to know, and I think, Amy, that would be your cue, is, so what about E. coli and algae, E. coli, and isn't that normal and natural anyway?
Hi, Pascal. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. One of the things that is really important when water is, it's great questions. When water lowers, is that, and you have a high activity like the South Yuba River, when water level lowers, it tends to warm up more as it gets closer to the surface. With folks recreating in the water, and then with also runoff from farmlands, et cetera, you can have pathogens like E. coli or other that increase in the water, and therefore water recreation safety is crucial. So if you are recreating, and we all want to jump in the pool or the river when the weather gets ridiculously hot, I understand and appreciate that. But as soon as you're done, before you eat, it's very important before you eat or drink anything that you wash your hands as best as you can. Even if you have a hand sanitizer, something is better than nothing. If you're holding food that you're about to consume, it's best to try to recreate without ingesting any of the water. We like to splash and play in the water, and do your best to avoid that. But yeah, the risk does get higher as the water level lowers. You have more populace in the area, including any kind of runoff that may have contributed to the water if it remains stagnant. just be cognizant of that, because the E. coli, it's everywhere. You know, it from animals to cattle to deer to sheep, you know, it's in our environment, it's in our natural waterways. It just needs the right environment to really proliferate, and then it needs the right host. And unfortunately, sometimes that host is us. So, and that's the last thing we want, is to get sick after trying to get cool in the heat, right?
Yeah, and speaking of runoffs from farms, um, several questions were, what about runoff from marijuana grows? If there is runoff that goes into streams, etc., and there's less water, so it's going to be more concentrated. Is there a specific danger from that type of runoff?
You know, it depends. Yes, any kind of runoff from an industrial or commercial practice can be detrimental to the environment. When you're talking about farming or agriculture grows, such as cannabis, there's enhancements that are often used, like fertilizers, and or sometimes there are pesticides used as well. And when you concentrate those and then you release any large quantity into a natural body of water, you're going to upset the balance, right? It's just like us. We eat or drink something that just isn't right. It upsets our balance, and we're not well. And the same thing happens with an ecosystem. And that's why sometimes you'll see, if there's high nitrates or high concentrations of fertilizers, etc., smaller rivers, streams, and even lakes will see an algal bloom. We call it blue-green algae. It's the type that can actually create toxins, that if you're walking your horses or even your dogs and that along a river or stream and it's present, if they ingest it, they can also get very, very sick. So yeah, there are very adverse effects to that kind of runoff, but actually identifying the source and locating it, that can be problematic too.
And let's see. And I believe it's really hard to identify sources, because we all remember, but 2 years ago when all of a sudden we had a massive change in color on the South Yuba, and again the source was never 100% determined. I just got a question for Nick and Brandon, I believe. Is there any danger that when PG&E re-energizes lines and a portable generator is running, what's the danger there? Is there any danger of explosion?
Well, if you have a properly installed transfer switch, then the two systems are isolated. Your main service panel is disconnected from the grid. And so you should go through that process of shutting the generator down, disconnecting it, and then throwing the transfer switch to get back to PG&E power. So I would say no, I'm not aware of there being a significant risk of explosion or anything like that.
I believe it was it's an anecdotal story about a generator running. PG&E utility power comes back, and I'm going to assume that there was no transfer switch involved, but talking about an explosion then. So a transfer switch, and also a lot of people have portable generators because they can't afford standby generators. You're talking about transfer switch. What is the approximate cost of a transfer switch?
I'm not really in the business of purchasing them, but transfer switch, it's funny, I was just looking up, the basic equipment. Again, our permitting fees are about $400. I would say you probably need to contact a licensed electrician, because there are fees associated with the installation as well as the equipment. And that's not the business I'm in, so I'm sorry, but I don't have numbers like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm coming through, Pascal, but I don't have a figure on that either. But I do think I strongly believe that having the work done by a qualified electrical worker is not only the best thing for public safety, but for your family's safety.
And Brandon, could you talk about you mentioned that you are working with organizations like Freed, etc. If people that have functional needs or medical needs, so you're the medical baseline customers. I have a question from somebody who is asking how do you get on the medical baseline? How do you become a medical baseline customer?
That's a great question, Pascal. Thanks. So the medical baseline rate program is intended for those who have a need for equipment powered by electricity for their medical needs. So whether that be a CPAP machine or a breathing machine or an oxygen generator, there's many different pieces of equipment that fall into that criteria. So during the time of COVID, we had waived the requirement for a doctor's attestation of the condition and the need for the equipment to qualify for the rate. So from what I understand, individuals can still go on our website and seek out the medical baseline rate for their residents. But I do believe that as we emerge from COVID, there is going to be a requirement for that doctor's attestation of the medical requirement in order to qualify. But what that provides is a discounted electrical rate to accommodate for the additional need for electricity stemming from that medical equipment.
And at the same time, you are working with Freed so that, for example, if somebody has oxygen concentrators, etc., what they need to run, so that they have access to power or backup power during a PSPS, correct?
Yes, we have a sort of an umbrella arrangement with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, which Freed is a part of. And I would have to defer to Anna, although I believe she took a new role. I think I had seen that recently, but and I'm sorry, I don't really work as much on the customer side of the house, but I do know that we still maintain a strong partnership with Freed, and we're committed to continually supporting them as they support us in supporting that cross section of customers. And I do understand from what I've been told that we'll continue that partnership out into the future years. And that involves everything from providing backup battery services to transportation assistance, housing assistance, food assistance. And then of course we have our community resource centers, which will be spread throughout the county in strategic areas to provide additional customer supports in terms of access to electricity, air conditioning, cold water, ice, a number of services. All of that can be found on our website at pge.com/wildfire safety. And one thing, Pascal, if I could note it just quickly, as it relates to the little town of Washington, we were challenged in finding an ADA accessible location for us to place a CRC. So our public safety specialist there locally, Felix Burbina, great guy. He's been working with the county OES and the fire chief there in Washington. And we're actually going to be staging the resources that would be typically available at a CRC at the Washington fire station. So in lieu of us parking a van or putting up big tents, those community members and customers in the little town of Washington will be able to receive those supports directly from their fire department there.
That's great. That's great news. And I know that the Washington Fire Department, which by the way is a full volunteer or volunteer only fire department, they have been doing some great progress with a lot of things, including with wildfire safety communications as well. And of course, they have to deal with also with the influx of hundreds, if not thousands, of people every weekend, because
Right.
that's what the town of Washington. It's just amazing how that population just. At some point, I asked the chief, "Well, it's going to be what? You have double or triple?" And he said, "Oh, it's more like 10 times the real population of the town of Washington on weekends." So And again, if there is with drought plus if there is fire danger, so please people be careful and maybe just go to a location that's a little more accessible or easier to get out in case of a fire, because at some point we will have fires, sadly. And the important thing is that everybody stays safe, because be that safety of the residents, safety of the line crews that are after a PSPS event that go and inspect the lines. And by the way, Brandon, so how many helicopters do you have now and planes inspecting the lines? Because they do some very fancy flying every once in a while.
Excuse me. Yeah. So about the helicopters, I'll just throw it out there. We hear a lot about that. And so 99% of the time, if you see a low flying helicopter, it is a PG&E contractor inspecting power lines. And that's a benefit to the customers. It allows us to do it much more quickly than we would otherwise do it on foot or in a truck. We often have, places like the little town of Washington, the Allegheny going out to Downeyville. Really the only effective way to patrol those in real time is with aviation. And so in terms of the number of helicopters, that's going to fluctuate. My understanding is we have upwards of 60 helicopters on contract throughout the system. Those will be deployed based on impact, right? So if the PSPS is centrally focused in Sierra Division, El Dorado County up to Sierra County, Yuba County, I think we'll see more aviation support. Whereas if we're seeing large scale public safety power shutoff impacts in Sonoma Division, North Coast, out in Humboldt, that just sort of spreads the wealth a little bit more. But we have secured some strong aviation assets for the year ahead. And we've done what we can to communicate out on those patrols in real time, but sometimes it happens quickly. And I would just ask for our customers' patience. And if they hear low flying aviation in their vicinity, perhaps secure your stock, and that sort of thing, because we do understand it's an impact to our agricultural customers in terms of their livestock. And we do our best to minimize impact, but at the same time, we're trying to bring back service as quickly as possible.
Makes sense. And yes, and I have to say, it's pretty impressive to see a Firehawk or Black Hawk helicopter basically with the camera following the lines and doing some really tight turns, because of course in the area where lines go through the forest, and it's pretty impressive to see that. But before we wrap up, Amy, here's another question for you. That would be, we're not supposed to water our gardens, or not as much. We're not supposed to water the landscape, or not water as much. But do we have to take extra precautions? Basically, is there anything special to be done if you have livestock, aka chickens, and you have a garden at the same time? Because you mentioned that, runoff, etc., and chickens. Do people need to take any special precautions if they try to water less, but make sure that their veggies are still safe?
You bet.
I don't know if you're also an ag specialist, but hey.
I'll give it a shot. So I think what the question is referring to is that if you do have some kind of ag operation happening, but yet you're still rendering or growing your own produce for consumption, is that something that is safe when you have runoff from, say, the chicken operation into your garden? And a lot of times the natural, enhancements to soil really do contain the byproducts of our animals from chickens. They actually are a very good implement to your garden soil. I wouldn't say just in mass quantities, but if you are watering or cleaning, there really isn't anything other than You know, when you think about a plant taking up nutrient and it causing an issue into the plant, there really hasn't been anything shown from husbandry or animal operations that would actually impact the vegetable itself. It's when you go to wash the item in water, you want to make sure that water is clean, right? And that's why we see the lettuce issues or the spinach issues, because there's a water cross contamination. It doesn't actually get absorbed into the plant. So, and as far as runoff from the property, of course, you just want to minimize that. But as far as impact from roots up to the plant, the fruit that you're actually going to eat, there's nothing other than what they found, maybe like a heavy metal, but you're not going to find that from your husbandry or your animal byproduct. So I think you'll be okay as long as you use potable water to wash up after you pulled or picked the fruit, vegetables.
Good to know. Brandon, one last question for you. With the upcoming heat wave, are we going to have blackouts? Do you have a crystal ball?
You know, I have my wife has a crate and barrel crystal ball, but it doesn't read the future. So I will say, you know, that's all governed by CAISO, the California Independent System Operator, and is really an aggregate forecast of energy use across the entire state. So not just PG&E, but Southern California Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, and others. And so one thing I'm going to pull this up real quick. Perhaps I can just, I found a very useful tool that I would encourage everyone to download. And it's called, let's see, it's called ISO Today. And I'm going to see if you guys can see that. And so if you download this app on your phone, and you see that there's going to be a flex alert on the system, this will tell you how close we're getting to the potential for rolling blackouts. Additionally, again, this is not something that's dictated by PG&E. PG&E could have adequate carrying capacity on our portion of the system and still be subject to these just based on the independent system operator. It's an important thing to note. What I will say is, as it relates to these CAISO flex alerts, for one, conserve as best you can. It's important, and we can all do our part to avoid any kind of blackouts. But additionally, you can go to pge.com/rotating outages, and you can find on that website what outage block your address is within, because there's essentially, it's a rolling scheme. So like one block will be for 2 hours, and the next block will be for 2 hours, and the next block for 2 hours. So it's important that you're aware of your outage block and you're able to monitor your outage block in relation to the CAISO forecasts. Additionally, those individuals who are in the block 50 outage block are typically on a portion of the grid that serves a hospital, fire station, police station, and those blocks are essentially exempt from those rotating outages that California ISO would implement. And so there is the possibility that we could see a confluence of events that causes the system to face further rotating outages, and we do our best to communicate with local government and our partners on that. But download the ISO Today app, very useful, and then just monitor your local news channels, including Ubinet, one of the best in the area as far as I'm concerned. And you know, that's about all I have to say about that. But yeah, there's a lot of good information on the ISO Today app.
Indeed, there is, including seeing the demand inch closer and closer to whatever they set as peak. And by the way, it's okay to even conserve some energy if even when it's not a flex alert or same thing with water. Just drip irrigation is really nice for if you can install drip irrigation for your garden. That's really nice. And above all, safety. So safety is really the one thing. It's safety goes from being fire safety, the electrical safety, having the generators, portable generators installed correctly, and make sure that you're familiar with the operation. Same thing with if you go and you recreate, just, you know, we all have wipes and hand sanitizer left from the pandemic. So I'm pretty sure that, just stick some in your bag if you're going to any body of water or river, and just be careful, everybody. And I would like to thank my 3 remaining panelists here for spending an hour with us and answering the questions. And hopefully it was useful, and we will put this up on YouTube, of course. So Brandon, Nick, Amy, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who was live here with us. And hopefully we don't have to repeat this, because everybody now knows and will do the right thing. So thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Pascal. Good night.
Night.